And we are recording. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Deane Show. We have Metaphysicalmeagan here, someone that I've connected with through a viral article online, someone who is an incredible human being who loves wellness, water, nature, the sun. She's a power lifter. She's a coach. She does, she's building communities online, and as well as she's an entrepreneur. And I have been lucky to connect with her. I read this article and I was blown away at this incredible human being who was, naked outside, sun-gazing, sun worshipping. And I was like, oh my gosh, this person's like me. And I connected with Meagan on Instagram, and we've just been getting to know each other the last maybe 6 months or so. And I thought, why not bring her on here to share her wisdom and insights on health, wellness, lifestyle. And her number one question or like word that she shared with me today was sovereignty. So I've put that in the background. We can chat about that too. So Meagan, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Love connecting with you. It's so fun.
This is white shirt day today.
Yeah.
So
white.
So would love to hear a bit more of your story and how you got into what you do today.
Yeah.
Please.
So my journey has been, it's been all over the place, but I think as I started kind of waking up to just different things going on in the world, I became really passionate about nutrition and fitness and wellness. And I think what really opened my eyes to just things that are kind of seen as abnormal or unusual was getting my own body healthy. And one of my friends, Troy Casey, says, you're only as conscious as you are healthy. So as I began to heal my own body in various like holistic avenues, I started to wake up to spirituality and connecting with nature and just all the different things that I am interested in and passionate about.
Awesome. And was there like a one moment experience for you that really was like your aha moment on going from where you were, growing up or whatever challenges you've been through, and you went, oh my gosh, I really got to start looking after myself, my mind, my body, my spirit? Was there like one or two really important shifting moments for you?
I wouldn't say it was like one specific thing. I think it was a series of, if you want to call them like dark night of the soul moments, where we kind of go through our own darkness and suffering, if you want to call it that. And that led me to just doing a lot of, internal work and exploration. I wouldn't say it was just one specific thing. I would say it's just a series of events that kind of waterfalled into, just having me search for deeper understanding and just connecting and seeking the truth.
And I think, speaking of truth, chatting to you and what you're wanting to share on this podcast, I'm really excited to hear your insights in this, because you have you're sharing some incredible truths that sometimes could be controversial for some, that challenge the status quo, and I'm sure you might get resistance from a lot of people. But why are you so passionate to share? Like, I know you're very honest, you're very kind of open. Some of your posts are very vulnerable. How do you do that? So a lot of people out there are kind of looking or on social media or wanting to share, and they're kind of afraid maybe of other people's opinions and things like that. But do you have any advice for people who are really wanting to share their voice and step up?
Yeah. So I would say, like, honestly, for a long time, I was really scared to be outspoken and to share my voice and to share my truth. But it started to become even more painful for me to not share what I know, because I was so passionate about these things. And growing up, I would say probably one of the themes of my life is learning to not really care what other people think and just keep kind of marching to the beat of my own drum and focusing on the things that resonate with me, and knowing that through me sharing my voice and my message through just being my authentic self, that is going to in turn affect at least one person. So if even just one person is, affected by my message or just me being myself, then it's worth it, even when people may not understand it or even criticize me for, just being outspoken. I wasn't always like this. Like, I really had to do a lot of healing work around sharing my voice. And I know it's a big part of why I'm here on earth, is to be seen and heard, and just here to help the collective in that way.
And so where were you before you had a voice? What was going on for you then?
I would say I was very much of like a people pleaser, and didn't really like being seen, was very shy, and didn't like conflict, and just kind of kept to myself. And I really like would avoid conflict, because I didn't want, other people to butt heads with me, or, things like that. I just wasn't really in my full competence and full like personal sovereignty, with that word up there. And I was letting like society and other people kind of sway my being, and pull me along in that way.
Totally. And right now, this is happening for so many people out there, with all these changes. We're in lockdown, but in these challenges, there's so many gifts and opportunities for us. Allowing us more time to learn and grow is really exciting. And so I guess, I'd love to know, with over there in the US and within your community, I'm sure you have an incredible community, incredible tribe. Like, how important is tribe and community for you and in your journey? Has that been a massive support for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think us who kind of identify as, maybe the black sheep or hippies, whatever you want to call it, I think there's a point in our journeys where we feel like we're the only one. But when we connect with the soul family and the tribe, it helps remind us like there are other people out there like us. So for me, like, a lot of my connecting with my tribe and my community has been virtual, and it's been really amazing just to see how humanity has come together to support each other. Even if we're not physically in the same place, we can still connect with like-minded people and just share our journey, share our heart and, vision for new earth, or the new society that a lot of us are wanting to create and bring forth with just our vision and, the things that excite us.
Very cool. And I'd love you to share more on, when we first connected, in that article that was put up around your naked sun gazing. Tell us all about that.
So back in October, I think, is when I made the post. I haven't really been doing this for that long, but I started, spending more time out in nature and doing the perineum sunning like in the morning as part of my morning routine. And I was just kind of sharing my own experience on my Instagram page. And then that just kind of took off, and people were fascinated by it. People thought I was joking, but this is like something that I do, whenever I can, because it's so energizing. And I've just always known, for a long time, that the sun is really important for our health, physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. Like, it accelerates just our connection with ourself. And so the perineum sunning is just going outside in the morning, preferably, and spending, anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, naked in the sun. I try to do it in places where there's not many people. National parks, or like, places out in nature is typically ideal. And it's been a powerful, form of like energizing myself and just getting my day started. I used to drink a lot of coffee, and I just like exploring more natural ways of kind of biohacking or energizing my body, and that was one of the things.
That's awesome. And do you feel better for it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that it's done for me is just connected me back to my body. I mentioned how it's helped just heal my womb and like connection with my own sexuality and like divine feminine, essence of being a woman, but like, males and females will benefit from, being naked in the sun.
Totally.
Those I would say are the top things for sure.
The benefits are huge, and it's just not really spoken about that. Okay, yes, we eat healthy and, get good sleep and, go to exercise, but part of the whole thing is actually maybe going naked in the sun as much as we can, especially that morning sunrise when there's no UV, we're not going to get burnt. And it's that red light that's really soothing and helps ATP production in our body. It's good for, apparently it kills bad bugs in the stomach. It actually boosts good bacteria as well. So anyone with health, gut issues, as well as helping our circadian rhythm around sleep and things like that. So I've been learning so much about it. Has it helped your fitness and lifting at all, or helped your strength or recovery?
So I haven't been doing a ton of lifting lately. I've been, working out when I can, doing a lot of like yoga and just different things. But when, I was working out quite a bit, I really noticed my like recovery times kind of sped up, didn't feel like as sore and stuff. I just felt like, just like the way my body functioned as a whole was night and day difference. Kind of similar to when I was using whole body red light therapy when I was working in a massage facility where we had access to that. And the sunlight is very, very similar to the far infrared just the red light therapy beds. That speeds up the ATP production, which helps with cellular repair, which leads to the tissue repair. And I see that same process happening, in the sunlight too.
I know you're really big into water, and you're mentioning today on your story, talking about our bodies are changing, our DNA is changing. Would love to kind of go down that rabbit hole with you, because water, apparently when NASA goes to search for life on other planets, they look for light, water, and magnetism. If a planet doesn't have those things, life doesn't exist. So just as important as light is also water. And tell me more of your water story and like how that's improved your life. I think it's structured water. Is that what you focus on now?
So it's structured living water that mimics the water that the earth produces in many of the natural springs, places like Lourdes, France, and Japan. Those are places where the water there is more structured, and even like the populations around these areas have a higher life expectancy. But my journey with water really began at a young age. I was a competitive swimmer for a long time. I've always just been connected with being in the water, being near oceans, waterfalls, those kinds of things. And then I recently found Kangen water, which is this structured living water that is made by a machine. It gives an electrical charge to water. And for me, it's helped me to heal just some things that I've been struggling with for a good part of my life. The two main things for me were really bad ocular migraines where I couldn't see, and it would just completely debilitate me from living my life. And then the second thing was I used to experience really painful and excruciating menstrual cycles, and healing that aspect of my relationship to my womb and my menstrual cycle has led to both my passion for this water and for just the work I do around sacred sexuality and tantra, and just helping people have a healthy connection with these natural processes that our bodies are a part of. And I love the water. I'm drinking it right now.
Very nice. It's my friends next door have a machine. My mom's had a machine for many years as well. The Kangen water's great. And the structure, I found this other little device that you put on the end of the Kangen that like structures it even more. And it like,
oh, really?
It's got like crystals and like some kind of magnetized metals or something. Like, I'll have to send it to you. It's really interesting. But my friend, she puts the device next to a fan and she goes, now I'm structuring the air. I was like, that's awesome. Cool. But that's so important, that the water for every cell, everything in our body. And right now, obviously with all the EMFs and all the non-native frequencies that are potentially hurting us. It's about staying hydrated and helping us shift into that. And you're mentioning stuff around our DNA changing or how we're crystallizing. Yeah, like that is so interesting.
Yeah. So I kind of discovered this a while back, like a few years ago. There would be times I would be meditating outside and I would go in the sunlight and I would look at my hands, and it would look in direct sunlight. It would look like my hands had glitter or like shiny makeup on, and I couldn't quite like rub it off. And that I began to like kind of unpack this and saw like other people having similar experiences of like seeing this shimmer or this like crystallization like in the skin. I can kind of see it in here and this youth or this fluorescent light. But I began to realize like this was our physical DNA changing. So the human body right now is very carbon based. It's a little bit more dense, and then so the next stage of the human evolution is changing to a more silica base, which is that crystalline base where our DNA is lighter and we're literally shifting to hold more cosmic light, which we can't really see with our visible eyes on the visible light spectrum. But our bodies are changing to where these different aspects of our DNA that some call junk DNA or dormant DNA is coming online. And as the Schumann resonance of the earth, which can be measured as well, as that is raising, that frequency is also affecting our human bodies to change as well. And I don't know where I was going with that, but you can go out and see your light body, and it's just very interesting. I don't really have a whole lot of like science behind it other than the carbon to silica. But I've had other people kind of confirm some of these similar things as well.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I'm gonna go do that next time I'm sitting in the sun and just kind of look at my skin. And I'm sure there's a big part to play with obviously the water that you were drinking, the food, and being able to cleanse and like being able to have a healthy vessel as well. And I think what you were mentioning around sacred sexuality and talking about the feminine, and I think as the rise of this beautiful feminine energy is getting exposed over the planet, there's like balancing out the polarities. I watched this awesome documentary the other week called Our Journey Home, and it spoke about that there was a time in texts that it spoke about a time before the moon where the planet didn't have the moon at certain times. And I was like, really, that's so interesting. And it started talking about rocks and how rocks have frequencies, and certain things like Stonehenge or these incredible natural wonders of the world have certain frequencies in there, which was a way of people reconnecting back to the earth. Even back then, people get distracted by the fancy, shiny thing. Now, we've got phones and everything, so connecting back to nature is obviously the most healing thing we can do. And they were talking in this documentary around the moon being actually an invention from some intergalactic race or something like that, as the moon was there to control the women by 2 weeks out of the month having this cycle. And then if you control the women, you control the men as well. And so slowing down the progression of consciousness. What do you have to say about that? That's such
I've definitely heard those stories around like the moon being kind of a control structure. I think now I've heard stories of the moon being liberated, and so that's really interesting because the moon does affect like the waters of the earth, but it also affects the waters of the women's bodies and then men as well. So it just goes to show like how the waters of both the planet and us are just easily affected. And water is a form of crystal, which is a type of rock, or we can go deep down that rabbit hole. But crystallizing our waters allows us to be more in that light body. And then you mentioned 5G and the Kangen water, because it's structured and electric, it does help to protect your body against 5G. I have my friend Jilly met some physicists that are working to kind of like create scientific proof to show that it does help protect your body from those,
Wow.
different types of radiation and stuff that are being blasted at us.
It's interesting because literally today, one of my friends was telling me that the hydrogen, molecular hydrogen, is a protective antioxidant from life, but particularly EMFs, electromagnetic
Yeah,
frequencies.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's the machine that creates it through electrolysis, as well as the filtering out of the fluoride and chlorine, all that stuff. But that
Yeah.
electrolysis. With the Kangen, have you ever tried to light the water with a lighter?
I haven't personally tried to do that, but I've seen like my people on my team and my friends do that. My friend Chris, who's my friend Jolie's partner, he'll light it and you can see the spark.
You can see,
As
as it's coming out, the lighter there, and
yeah,
it's like pop, 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 pop. Apparently, hydrogen's like super,
combustible.
combustible, and so in our body, it's one of the smallest elements on the planet. So it just disappears quite quick. But if you can drink it, that's helping your bodies have an extra defense. So that's so important. I think that's really important. That water. We've spoken about sun a little bit as well. Would love to know a little bit more about any routines that you do in the morning or at night that have really helped you on your journey, whether they're, therapy, any advice on things that have helped you releasing trauma out of your body. I know that there's lots of talk about that on your social media as well. And I think that's so important to get balanced in the moment, back to our sovereignty, releasing the emotions. Any morning or evening routines that are like really helpful for you?
Yeah. So the main morning routines I have are I do a gratitude practice. So some type of like gratitude journaling, focusing on the things I'm grateful for. I also try to go out in nature and ground and connect with like the earth or the trees, just so I have that connection with nature first thing in the morning. And then I do a movement practice. My favorite one right now is called Kriya of the Week. It's basically a variety of breath work, meditation, Kundalini yoga. It's about a 20 to 30-minute practice every day. You do the same Kriya for 7 days in a row. And that's really helped just kind of get me in the state of being that I prefer to be in, so I can go about my day creating my reality as I prefer. So that's been a big thing, having like a morning routine of some type. I also do oil pulling, which is kind of a more like physical thing in the morning. And then I make sure I drink, start my day with some Kangen water. And then at night, I kind of have a similar nighttime routine. Lately, I've really been enjoying doing some yin yoga, just kind of slowing down my nervous system before I go to sleep. Sometimes I'll do like 20 minutes of reading and maybe some journaling again. But as far as like releasing trauma from the body, for me, especially around sacred sexuality and just the relationship with my womb, a lot of women and even men, like, in the womb space, which is for men just like the male sex organs, we can store a lot of emotions and trauma there. And for me, not only going out in nature has helped, but something that I do, which is a jade egg practice, which is just a nephrite jade crystal that I work with, that helps, just release any stagnant emotions. I also do some qigong, where I like clear the energy out of my organs. Typically do that out in nature so that the energy is grounded. Those two things have been really profound for moving the emotions or energy and motion through my body. So that way, I don't store these emotions in my physical body, because a lot of times we do store pain and trauma in the body, and doing different things to move the energy through, even if it's just as simple as like allowing ourselves to cry, allowing ourselves to feel the perceived negative emotions, can be really powerful, so that we don't store that trauma in our physical vessel.
I love that. There's so many little nuggets there. Energy in motion that you spoke about. It's just energy, and it's that's what I always say. It's like, it's just energy. It's stuck energy, and it's like, it's not good or bad. It just is, and it's there to maybe teach us a lesson. So why don't we just kind of release that? I think having an awareness of our body and what's happening, obviously being aware of the people and our mission or electrosensitivity or certain foods that we're eating, can cause resistance in our body, whether it's an intolerance or an allergy or just some kind of sensitivity. But that's so important, energy and motion, just like letting that energy out. And the qigong or the meditation or the sun and the nature, like, my gosh, this is the world that we're heading to. Like, this is what everyone can do. It's free. Most of this stuff we can do for free. And it's like, there's no excuse anymore,
Right.
So I think that's really exciting. And then you were talking about, what was that last point you were talking about? Yeah, just like obviously connecting with our sex organs and allowing that trauma or whatever is there to release. Do you have any other tips around, reconnecting with one's sexuality? And cool.
Yeah. So one of the big things is the aspect of like being naked in nature. And there is a lot of like shame in society and religion, these different things around just the naked human body in general. So I would say, for people, like, start by being like naked at home, like be with your body, like look at yourself in the mirror, like allow yourself to like love this physical form you're in. Because there is so much shame around nudity, and like being naked isn't necessarily like being sexual, and yeah, so for me, the healing of that has been reconnecting with that natural state, whether I'm at home or in nature, just allowing myself to be human, and being naked is a very human aspect. So I think that's a big one for people, because I think there's a lot of fear and shame of like, we have to cover up, who we are physically, and even like on a, like personality level, to like hide behind things. So I think being naked physically and then just like being with yourself can be really powerful for reconnecting with the very natural side of sexuality and just being human.
Wow. How cool is that? And I think for some people that would be super uncomfortable. And I think anything.
I was uncomfortable.
Yeah. And over time, what can be uncomfortable can then be normal. And I have some friends. I went to an event, a festival called Confest. It's a conference festival, and it's an incredible event in Australia. And you can do talks and seminars, and like little groups and villages can kind of come and you can put any talk you want up, and everyone can see the notice board. And there was so much nudity. It was actually a bit confronting. I was like, whoa, can people just put that away? But I think it does have a place, and it's why not start as a morning routine? That could be one little morning routine. Sit naked, meditate naked, or do whatever you're doing. You're adding that nakedness into our everyday activity.
Yeah, totally. And like, it was totally uncomfortable for me, like before I started, doing, the naked sunning every day, and then even getting to the place where like I post these naked in nature photos. So yeah, it's just been like kind of me sharing my own healing journey around, that shame and that part of ourselves that's very natural.
Well, like, I'm sure back in the day, when gyms didn't exist, or when we were more outdoors, meditation would have been outdoors, yoga would have been outdoors, like fitness would have, like these things that we are doing indoors, that yes, they're the healthy practice of, goal setting or having a healthy smoothie or whatever, but why don't we just take it outside? And why don't we just take our clothes off and do it? So it's like just unraveling these social norms and trying something outside of the box, and being more creative with it. I think that's awesome. Any final comments on like self-healing, helping people get back in touch with their potential, back in touch with their divine or God? And so, I know you do a lot of coaching, but what type of practices do you have that might help accelerate people who are out there looking for a new, I guess, journey or a new strategy or a new idea?
So I incorporate a variety of different tools. Like for me, breath work has been really powerful, but really, I guess kind of the core message of like the healing work I do is the message of like feeling is healing. So not, pushing things to the side and ignoring them, but like allowing ourselves to fully feel whatever's present in the moment. and just like accepting that and not resisting that can be a huge catalyst for transformation and breakthrough. And it's not so much, which tool you use. It's, finding which one works for you to allow you to release any stories or beliefs around, the negative experiences, the pain, the trauma, even like physical pain and injury. Like it just comes down to accepting, the current state and not resisting it, and not insisting that you necessarily like need to change. But I like to see the people I work with, or even just encounter on a day-to-day basis as already being whole, as already being healed. And I think a lot of the ascended masters and like spiritual teachers like Jesus, whoever you want to name, a lot of their strengths were just seeing people as their true divine, character or nature, and not insisting they need to change, and like seeing that in someone can be that catalyst for transformation that can cause these miraculous healings, if you want to call them that. So, yeah.
I love that. That is really cool. That's really powerful. Yeah, and people talk. There's a lot of talk around our shadow self and trauma, or these really what could be seen as heavy experiences in our life. And my friend, and we spoke last time, these are opportunities for growth. These aren't, we don't see them, you don't have to see them as a traumatic experience. They're just opportunities to learn and grow. So having a different definition on that, I think, really opens up the experience.
Totally. Like we can definitely change our perspective and like change the story that we associate with, the opportunities for growth, the pain, those kinds of things. We can, just change the way that we view them and what we make them mean about ourselves as well.
And I love when we spoke the other week, I was sharing some videos on the current situation, COVID and things like that. I'm like, oh, what's your opinion on that? And you were talking about, quantum, I guess my other friends call it quantum what?
Quantum jumping?
Quantum jumping, and my other friends call it quantum leaping. And where, obviously what we focus on expands in our life. If we're focusing on all the darkness, we'll attract more of that. If we focus on more of the light and the gifts, we'll attract more of that. And in quantum physics, there's an experiment called this double slit experiment, where what we focus on creates more of a higher probability of certain energy going in that direction. If we don't have clarity, our focus and the energy potential of future realities is expanded. So that's why clarity is number one for me. And so share a little bit more about that, because I think that's a final topic, and we'd love to
So just with all the the pandemic, the perceived like negativity in the world, for me, like it's really just come down to realizing like the power that I hold in creating the reality I desire for me individually, and then also collectively. And I think I want to put my energy towards the things that I prefer to see in my reality rather than the things I don't prefer to see, because the power of our attention is stronger than we might realize. And I think by focusing on like the preferred timeline or positive reality, we are pulling that timeline in a sense energetically towards us faster than we would be, by focusing on the negative, focusing on, not wanting vaccines or whatever you want to call these different things that could be potentially like taking our power away. So like this is an aspect of the word sovereignty, and taking our personal sovereignty back is realizing like, okay, we are powerful. We can use our intent to create our reality, but also the collective reality. And so it's just a matter of how do we want to use that power, and recognizing like of these 8 billion people on earth, each one of us is sovereign, and we've just forgotten our connection to that sovereignty. And so another thing I always say is remember your divinity. And that's, to me, is connected with the personal sovereignty of us being here as human beings, but realizing we are the divine in human form. And with that comes this knowing of our ability to create whatever we want. And so, yeah, I just prefer to focus on the things I want to see, because that's more exciting to me than dreading the things I don't want to see in the world. And I don't know if any of that made sense, but that
Totally, absolutely, yeah, it does. And you feel it, focusing on solutions rather than focusing on. I think it's important to acknowledge the current situation,
exactly,
and just not to get stuck there, and focus mainly on the solutions, or whether it's your passion or purpose is a
because
massive part.
that can be a huge rabbit hole, and can be depressing to focus on all the darkness and all the things going wrong. There's definitely a place for realizing, okay, that this is a very true thing that's gone on in humanity. But like you said, like, do I want to focus on the problems, or do I want to focus on solutions? And when we focus on solutions, we move away from those things that we don't prefer to see in humanity and in the collective.
Yeah. I love it. Meagan, if you had like one last 30-second share for the whole world to see before you left this planet, and you could just share your last 30 seconds, last 30 seconds of wisdom or insight, or it was the last 30 seconds of your life and you were sharing it to all the 8 billion people on the planet, what would you say?
Yeah. Man, that's like such like a heavy thing. But
that's why I was extending the question to give you more time. But
yeah. So really, it would come down to like this aspect of like remembering who we are, and like remembering our divinity. And we take this life so seriously, and like, yes, like we're here to live and experience life as a human being, but I think more so it's we're here to wake up to the nature of who we are. And if we leave the planet with anything, I think the most important thing is the remembrance of us being eternal, indestructible, and powerful beings of light. And part of this game of Earth is us forgetting so that we can wake up and remember. And if I were to encourage anybody to do anything, it would be to go on the path of self-discovery, to remember and reawaken that divinity within. So that's probably what I would leave people with. Not super deep, but that's definitely like the heart of my message a lot of times that I share with people.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. And how can people get in touch with you who are listening to this and want to say hi?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. That's probably the most, the biggest, I guess, social platform that I frequent, and that's at Metaphysicalmeagan. I spell my name Meagan. I also have my YouTube channel, which I've had for about a year now. It's also Metaphysicalmeagan. I would say those are probably the two biggest places. And then my website I'm working on is metaphysicalmeagan.com. But I would say for now, probably Instagram is one of the top ways to get in touch with me and to connect.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And anyone out there who's wanting to connect with Meagan, please do Metaphysicalmeagan on Instagram or the YouTube channel, and I'll put the details to connect with you in the post or this video. So thanks for your time, Meagan. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This was so fun.